Alright, hey guys, welcome to a new series here on my channel that I'm very excited about. Obviously my setup's a little different because I'm going to be looking at my screen directly for this one. I guess you'd say it's something of a reaction and commentary series, but it's on Steven Universe. I'm calling it Steven Revisi-Verse because I'm a child, and I think that sounds funny. What we're going to be doing in this series, and I may make adjustments to it over time depending on how people respond to it, but primarily what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going... There's not going to be a set number of episodes in each of these videos. It's going to be more whatever I feel I can justify fitting into a single sitting. And then like talking about without overloading myself, if that makes sense. But we're going to be going back and we're going to be looking at episodes of Steven Universe. And then my old reviews of them, so I can consolidate my opinions on the episodes from way back when. And then I'm going to be giving my thoughts on the episodes now, in retrospect, given everything that we know about the show, where it's going and how it ends. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about stuff that was never answered by the show. And that is going to be, I think, interesting for you guys, but it's also going to help me put together a list of things that I want to talk about in upcoming series. So, let's just jump right into this. We're not going to do the unaired pilot. I mean, I guess it was eventually aired, but you get my point. We're not going to do the pilot that's not canon to the show. We're going to start with Gem Glow. Then we're going to do Laser Light Cannon. We might do Cheeseburger Backpack in this video as well. But I might need to wait to do that one in its own video, because I still have very mixed feelings about that episode. Alright, let's just go right into this. I do, of course, have every single episode on my computer. Hurry up. Oh, I forgot how low quality some of my old video files from this show are. I like this song so much better than the Future opening. It's very nice to hear it again. Not that I didn't rewatch any of these during the run of Future, but you get my point. Makes you wonder there. Is that Earth Rumbling Scream a cartoony bit of creative license, or an actual power of Steven's? Cookie Cats became such a big deal in the fandom, didn't they? Like, how often do they actually show up in the show? And yet they're in all the tie-in material. They're a health recovery item in the games. They're in the finale. Like, it's absolutely insane how prolific Cookie Cats are. Probably because of something I'm going to be talking about in a minute. Little boy Steven is so innocent. I miss these days.
Do you want to take the freezer with you?
Sadie's the best.
Hey guys, you won't believe this!
Oh, hey.
Yes, Steven.
Knowing that all these things were legitimately traumatic for him the whole time really paints the casual attitude of the Gems during battle in a new light, doesn't it? They just did not understand what was going on with him at all, and did absolutely nothing to help shield him from it. Probably because he also thought the giant monsters were cool.
You guys? These things don't have gems.
And right there, we already had confirmation that these things are gems, right?
Humanity. Okay?
The exposition here is very effectively delivered. And already there we can see the little glow bracelet. Such attention to detail. Oh, this scene hits so much different after watching the finale of Future.
All that matters is that Steven is happy.
All that matters is that Steven is happy. And there we have the basis of what I understand to be the very first Steven Universe theory. As soon as it was clear that there was something mysterious about the gems, that they were in some way extraterrestrial, people were theorizing that the Cookie Cat song was retelling their history or the history of their leader or something. And that theory turned out to be pretty much true. The character designs were so wonky back then. It's weird. I have a feeling during these rewatches we're gonna hit a point where I feel like the art style hit its zenith, And until then, I'm going to be very annoyed, and then after that, I'm going to be very annoyed too.
Pay attention to these petals, Stephen. But it is being calculated in real time based on the physical properties of this planet.
Okay, so I like that that's one of the few times we straight up see her spear turn from sword mode into spear mode. Because if you notice there, it starts at sword length with a sword length grip, and then the grip grows into a full spear shaft. It's very cool. I love these scenes too. These are fantastic.
Wherever I need to summon my weapon, it just happens.
I wonder if that's because she's a quartz. And like, even if it isn't common for gems who are still homeworld aligned to use weapons, like in the flashback in the answer, we saw a bunch of quartz that weren't using weapons, right? Love Garnet.
At least that's my way of doing it.
That's so cool. Anyway, but I wonder if being a quartz means it's easier for Amethyst to summon her weapon without actually intending to, you know?
Your foot was like this.
I don't think it works this way, Stephen.
And Garnet. Yeah.
I miss being able to laugh at this show.
Oh, wait. I sang a song first.
In the show, in this moment, it tells you without telling you where his powers come from. It comes from love and caring between himself and the people most important to him. It's so good. Like, I love the show, the whole show, right? But the storytelling early on in the show, when they really doubled down and went whole hog on establishing the lore, is better than some of the stuff we got later. It just is. Amethyst is my spirit animal, man.
I summoned my weapon by eating ice.
And that's one of the scenes from the promo that made me hesitant to watch the show, because it seemed so stupid. That sounds stupid out of context, but in context, it's absolutely hilarious. Look at Garnet's hair jiggling around. Jeez. Okay, so there's already one thing that that was never ever explained. Why do they call Centipedal a mother? She's not. Gems don't have offspring in the rare case of rose quartz. Is it just are they just adopting a human term for this gem that seems to have developed the ability to spawn mini-me's of itself? And also, where did that power go? Is that a power that Nephrites have? Like, Pearl has a similar ability, so that's not out of the question. But where did that come from? That's never explained, and it's never seen again. It's very odd. Makes me think that they probably hadn't completely thought out what Senti's uncorrupted form was or could do yet, you know? I do like that they completely subvert the badass hero moment there. Like, Steven's basically a shonen anime hero. Or at least, that's the impression we've been kind of getting up to this point, you know? He has to learn to control his powers. And in that moment, when he thinks he's figured out how, it doesn't work. And instead, he has to defeat the enemy through ingenuity. It's very cool. I also don't buy that the crystal gems couldn't have beat this thing on their own, either. But that's beside the point. Poor Senti. Such a badass moment. And our first ever poofing. Same sound effects and everything. I don't know why it took some fans so long to realize that the monsters were gems, and I don't understand why it took some of them until it was explicitly said in the show for them to understand it. It's just so obvious.
In your own Steveny way.
In your own Steveny way. Such a good line. This episode's good, man. Yeah. And I guess from there we should go into my review of the episode and then move on to Laser Light Cannon. And just for efficiency's sake, I'm very much dreading this. This is going to be awful. For me. seeing me cringe so much is probably going to be fun for you guys. But, yeah, let's jump right into it.
Alright, hey guys, it's
Oh, fucking God.
a little while now since I've been on
Look
the
at my,
channel, and it's
look
been
at my
about,
set, if you can even
5
call it a
weeks
set.
since I started
Dear God.
reviewing Steven Universe.
How unprofessional. Look how lopsided it
I
is.
reviewed every new episode to come out since the most
And what is
recent
that?
hiatus ended with
What is that
Nightmare
camera
Hospital.
angle?
However, I have not reviewed any episodes earlier than that.
And have I ever talked before? Had I ever spoken words before this?
Episode entitled Gem Glow.
Dear God. I'm not good at this right now either, but I was really bad at this back then. And why am I wearing a pin from the Hunger Games? Is this back when I used to wear random shit to see if you guys would notice? You know, I used to do that, by the way. I still do sometimes now, too, but I used to do it a lot.
As one of the things that this show does best is including hints.
Had I just not learned how to breathe while talking yet at this point or something? Is that the problem
The
here?
first episode of the series opens on Steven in the donut shop where
Oh, this is
Sadie and
painful. This is
Bart
physically
were
painful to
lamenting
me.
And this scene seems really superfluous and separate from the rest of the show until you realize that it actually does a fantastic job of setting up what kind of character Steven is.
Yeah, that's true
He
enough, I
doesn't
guess.
take things too seriously, and he is rather sensitive, much more than most male protagonists.
Saying he doesn't take things too seriously is a little wrong, though. He's literally taking this situation way more seriously than he should be.
Boring after a while. Not to mention,
But I get what I was saying
television
there.
has a tendency to teach boys that it's wrong for them to be sensitive, which is absolutely not true. Having a character like Steven,
That's a
who
good
is
point.
sensitive and tough and serious and laid back all together, is one of my favorite things about the show because
It is, it really
very
is.
unique and sends a positive message. And
I don't even remember what my first actual review was at this point.
And we meet the crystal gems for the first time, and without getting too deep into any one of their characterizations, the show does a good job of establishing what their mission is.
It's basically what I was just
their
saying a second ago about how
and a little bit about
efficiently
themselves
the exposition was delivered.
where they sort of preparatory step for summoning a weapon.
I have
And then
YouTube
later on,
notifications
we
up there in the
actually
corner of my
see it for the
screen.
first
I
time.
really want to
And
click
this
it and
takes
see what they
place
are, and I'm
the
having to
first
fight
time
it.
the cats
Why did any of you guys ever start watching me? Seriously.
absolutely loved by them.
How long
It
is this
happens the
stinking
second
review?
time
Okay, we're almost
when
done.
Pearl assures
Dear
them,
God.
or as we learn more specifically, maternal love. It's really great.
Yeah, it's a little more
Stage
nuanced than that, but
for
that was a good guess back then.
development as
Back when
character
we
who
actually
most
thought that
of the
Rose was a
does
maternal
come
character.
from the
She
feeling
really
he
wasn't.
has for the bonds he shares with the other crystal gems. The centipedal attacks in its full-size original form. He attempts to help the
I guess I'd already reviewed
misunderstanding the source of his power, thinking he gets
at least one of the
his
other
power
episodes
from
with Senti in it then by
is adorable.
the time
And
this
he
dropped.
ends up, which kind of rounds out this story. A very
Already
basic
throwing that thing so
dramatic
far shows that
introduction,
he's like very
showing
strong,
that
right?
despite everything
Which is
that
technically a
Steve
gem power too.
lacks, I'm really not as impressed with them as I was the first time through. Mostly because the quality
See, that's
of the show
weird.
has just continued to increase.
It must
as
the show
series
must have been at a real
goes on.
peak then
Everything from
when I was
story
reviewing
to
this because
voice acting to animation.
I really enjoy going back and revisiting these early episodes
However,
now.
Gem Glow, I think, is one of the early episodes that still really, really holds
Okay,
up.
there you
It's
go.
a
There we
really
go.
good first episode and a fantastic introduction to a lot of the themes of the series, making it a great pilot/introductory episode.
Very
I
true.
actually go back and rewatch this episode pretty regularly.
I
and
still do.
use clips
I
for
still
it pretty
do.
often in my videos.
I don't do that
Which is
anymore.
Unfortunately, not something I can say for the next couple, but we'll get to them pretty soon. What did you think of this episode? Do you feel
This
like
camera angle's so
Elvis is
unflattering.
just enough to get us
Like, there's
to
only
the
like two
show?
angles of me that are flattering in the first place.
Either way, let's
Dear
get the
God.
discussion going in the comment section down below.
At the very least,
This has been AJ23.
this,
I'll talk to you guys later.
my sign off.
Laser like
Don't play the next one yet. It's fine. At the very least, going back and rewatching these early ones. Did I just do this in the same not sitting, because I didn't sit back then. I hated my back even more than I do now back then. This was in 2015. Dear fucking God. 5 years. 5 years. 5 of them. 5 of them. Man, that's insane. At the very least, rewatching these shows that I have learned some stuff since then. At the very least. Like, I know how to talk to people when they're not right in front of me now, at the very least. Dear God, that was terrible. Alright, let's watch Laser Light Cannon, and then watch this review of it after the fact. Dear God. Is it weird that I like the first version of We Are the Crystal Gems more than the second version that we got later. I don't know. I don't know if that's weird or not.
And Steven! Give me the bits!
Okay, so we
We're closed.
established stuff about the gems and their dynamic with Steven in Gem Glow. Now this one's establishing stuff about the town itself. I really appreciate how they compartmentalize those into two different episodes. Like, we got a little bit with the Big Donut, but for the most part, the Gem Glow was a gem episode, and this one's a townie episode.
Just the bits, please.
Oh, I mean, I must have thought of it at some point before,
My favorite time.
but it's been a long time, at the very least, since I thought about it. He eats the fry bits because Greg used to eat the fry bits because he was homeless and didn't have any money. I can just imagine
What is that doing here?
Greg taking baby Steven to the fry shop and not wanting to grab him out of the trash anymore, right? And so asking if he could have the bits, and then it just became a tradition for them, right? It's touching and kind of heartbreaking and also very interesting at the same time. Jeez, man.
Fry bits.
Can I see?
We never see one of these things again either.
Awesome. Not awesome. It's a red eye.
And
Red eye?
I'm not going to get into it too much in this video, probably, but
Pink eye, Steven.
the
It's going
the
to
red eye
smash
and its
the
behavior
pieces and crush us
doesn't
along
entirely
with
line
a bunch
up
of
with
oblivious, innocent people.
stuff
We have to
later.
stop it. I know, but she's not. And the cannon is missing.
Okay, so first
We'll have
mention
to
of
find another
Rose and her
solution.
absence and how they
Belong to my mom. I bet my
wish
dad
she was
knows
still
where it
around.
is. He can help us save the day. Huh?
First mention of Greg.
Greg is nice, Stephen.
It's so weird going
My
back to
dad
episodes
really
from
feels
before
like
they
someone
actually
like him
trusted and
with such a
respected
powerful
Greg.
weapon.
Your dad is kind of a mess, Steven.
This is true.
I'm just saying.
And she would know a mess when she sees it.
With him, he probably broke it, or lost it, or dropped it in the ocean by now.
True.
No way.
I mean, these are all just things that Amethyst herself would do with it. Let's not get ourselves
Handle
here.
this, Steven. Ready.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so she has future vision, right? And I know future vision only shows possibilities, but there was never a future where that would even possibly work. So she should have known that that wasn't going to work, right? Right? They really don't think through future vision in the show enough. I would be so much better at writing future vision than them. I am superior. I'm joking. It's fine. Has it ever had a car alarms again since then? Since this?
Stephen?
Is it even new enough to have a key fob, that van? Jeez.
Up so late. It was a slow day at the car wash. Anyway, what's up?
He seems so schlubby. Like he is, don't get me wrong.
Learn some lessons about
But he
life.
doesn't seem like he's any deeper than just schlubby at first, you know?
To blow up that eyeball.
Eyeball.
He doesn't make a good first impression, is my point. Poor Amethyst. At the very least, she doesn't have bones to
The
break.
gems told me not to get involved with magic stuff. It could be dangerous.
It's obviously not magic, though. It's very obviously technology already.
I know where it is. Like a cave dungeon, or a cloud fortress, or in a clam at the bottom of the ocean.
So already they're foreshadowing stuff that we're going to see in the show, right? Which means he might have already been to some gem sites before, or at least heard them described to
Not
him.
exactly, but some would say there's magic inside.
He has the car wash for storage too, though, right?
Going in there, I'm gonna need some gear.
And how does he... I mean, I guess the answer is the car wash.
Good luck.
How does he pay for all this stuff, and where did some of it come from? Like, there's all the cat-themed stuff, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But there's, like, the VCR and stuff. There's costumes and decorations. Golf stuff? Why does he have golf stuff?
Do you golf?
I like to think of myself as someone who would golf.
Okay.
Eventually.
Did he just buy it at a garage sale then, thinking he might use it someday?
A drum.
Is that what all this stuff is? After he had money, did he just start buying stuff at garage sales in case he might use it someday?
No.
I think that's going to be my working theory from now on,
Is this?
as to where all this stuff came from. Because Greg doesn't seem like a super materialistic kind of person anyway, right?
Oh, man.
His old CD. He had more than one CD, Steven. Come on, man. A sword? It has to be part of a costume, because there's a freaking gladiator helmet right there, too.
On a plain old dope like me.
Dad? I broke a photo!
It's okay.
We know now what she saw in him. They're
Chop were perfect, we wouldn't have hot
basically the same. They're basically the same freaking person.
Light cannon!
And already we get that that's the activation key, because it lit up when he said it. So that's hilarious. This was never gonna work. The smart thing to do would have been to just drive back to the beach, tell Garnet, hey, we have the light cannon, then have her do a Garnet jump over here, grab it, and jump back, right?
If every pork chop were perfect,
Okay, here's another thing. Like Cookie Cat.
huge.
If every pork chop were perfect, yada yada. Like, they say it occasionally, they reference it occasionally. But this is like the only time where it's a thing that Greg says all the time, right?
Come on.
And yet it became such a part of the mythos of the show. Why is he embarrassed by this? Like, it's not his best work, but it's still good. Look at Steven. Look at him bopping, it's so good. Look at, he's so flattered, I love it. Like, he still seems schlubby. And he seems so irresponsible nowadays, looking back. In some areas, at least. But he's at the very least a good guy who loves his son, right?
Throw me again. I think I'm cracking it.
She's not.
That?
But what if she did? Because we know the laser light cannon didn't work on Peridot's ship, right? What if Amethyst did crack the red eye, and the beam was able to get through the crack and destroy it, and the same thing would have happened if they'd thrown Amethyst at Peridot's ship a few times first. Amethyst is actually the true MVP here. Amethyst is the true MVP in general. I love Amethyst a lot.
You have Rose's gem. That's it.
That's the first explicit mention of that.
Throw me again. That's not going to work.
And Garnet's just up for it, though. And none of them even try to help him.
Something else. Something even better.
Right. If every pork chop
Already we see his dismissive attitude, though. I like that there's a group effort here, too. It's a very cool shot. And very reminiscent, well, I guess, technically, Alexandrite's
You just saved most
big combo bow attack is very reminiscent of that, with the form of the titular gem
Did you get it to work?
said that thing
in the
with
light,
all
you know?
sense.
Or gems in the case of Alexandrite. You know what I'm saying.
Hot dogs.
Rose.
They draw him more schlubby here than they did later, too. This is a great scene. Yeah. And the gems still don't even try to help. Alright. And now the review, because I hate myself.
I don't really feel that this episode works quite as well as the first one does, though I definitely feel like it works better than the next one. But we'll get to that.
Yeah, that's still pretty much how I feel about
I'm not
it.
going to focus on it too much here. Just a quick reminder, there will be spoilers in this review. Spoilers for this episode.
I guess I still do that.
Future episodes, as these earlier
Say the thing about
episodes
spoilers.
at setting up. However, it is pretty well connected to the first episode in terms of theme. That is the theme of establishing the baseline for this show.
That's basically what I just said
Episode gave us
in my commentary. Apparently my opinions haven't changed that much. Jeez.
that being something called a red eye is coming to Earth. It's not a moon. It's not a space station. It's some kind of giant alien probe that will crash into the planet. Nothing that they have on hand is powerful enough to destroy.
I mean, they didn't try a
What they
fusion
know
or
that can
anything.
do the job is Rose Quartz's laser light cannon. The problem
Or a
being
fusion,
no one
probably.
knows who is living in his van.
I
and
can't
seems
look
like
at the
kind
stupid
of a
wonky set anymore. I can't do it.
To be honest, based on just his portrayal in this episode, I have a hard time deciding whether or not I actually like the guy.
What was up with my hairstyle back then, too?
What's important is
Look like
he
my
has
grandmother.
faith, and he asks Greg, and eventually they do find the can.
That's another thing. Okay, future vision, right?
Where he keeps all the stuff that he can't
Should have shown Garnet at least one possible future where
In this scene in his
Steven
story,
went to
he
Greg and
one of
asked
the
him about the
most
cannon and they
important
found it.
early run of the series,
Right?
because
right?
Not only are there tons of things in there that I am absolutely positive are going to be important later on in the show.
Oh, there was hardly any of them. Dear God.
To the other gems so that they can use it.
Yeah, the whole thing in the storage unit does feel like a little adventure, which is cool. Feels like the kind of thing that a real kid and their dad would do, you know?
Storage unit, and he says, hey, it's like a dad museum in here, and that's just an absolutely fantastic way of putting it.
It is.
Because it's just so cute, and it's so quintessentially Steven.
I didn't even really heavily script these old reviews, and it still feels like I'm reading directly off of a script. What the hell?
I think his phrase, and he's reminded how much Rose loved him.
Yeah, that is a good scene.
It's very sweet. Chuck her over and over again at the red eye.
So that's an interesting thought that I had there.
It's really funny. Some really funny scenes, and it's one of the things that elevates this episode.
It's a very comedic scene, throwing Amethyst at the thing over and over again.
As I do some of these other earlier episodes, this show should be overlooked.
It does show that she is tenacious and really wants to do well. Jeez, these are short. Holy shit.
Have your feelings about him changed over the course of the show? Let's get a discussion going in the comments.
Okay, I'm ending it there. Dear God, that fumbling over the words. I didn't even have end cards on these back then. Alright, so that was fun. If painful translates to fun, rewatching the episodes was fun. This is gonna be hard work for me, rewatching my old content. Dear God, because I plan to do this with some of my old theories too, and some of those are just dreadful. Like, I really have no idea why any of you guys ever watched my stuff ever. So my opinion on these two episodes has changed far less than I actually thought it had, I guess, over time. Like, I really remember feeling differently about these than I guess I used to. That said, looking at these episodes from the perspective of the show being over, I don't have a lot to say about Gem Glow, which is weird. Just that, man, seeing all of them together, Steven singing the song, them hanging out in the kitchen, all doting over him, having just done this nice thing for him by going and buying up all the cookie cats. That hits hard the first time through. It's a very touching scene, but it hits so much harder now, having seen the redux of that scene in the future. It hit real freaking hard right here, man. But I don't really have a lot to say about Gem Glow. I think Gem Glow is a fantastic standalone premiere episode. In fact, if I hadn't been so turned off by the promos for this show, I think watching Gem Glow would have turned me on to the show in and of itself if I had done so when it first aired, if that makes sense. But Laser Light Cannon, it's interesting because I mentioned Greg comes off as very aloof and uninterested, and I described him as schlubby in my current commentary. And while I still adore Greg as a character, right, and I don't think he's a bad person by any stretch, I do think that first impression holds up more so than I had hoped that it would, if that makes sense. He is kind of aloof and uninterested, and yes, he gets more involved in Steven's life later on, but only really when he starts to see how much mortal peril his son is in all the time. And yes, they tell us right out the gate that the gems don't want him involved in magical stuff, which is basically all that Steven's been dealing with recently up to this point at the start of the show, and basically all he deals with from this point forward. And we know that Steven can go to him whenever he wants when he's not dealing with quote-unquote magical stuff. So, like, that's a mindset that's probably been reinforced in him since back when Rose was around. Because we know corrupted gems were a thing back then. She probably advised him to stay away during that stuff. And she trusted the gems so much, he would have no reason not to trust them. So I kind of understand it. I understand why he wouldn't want to be involved, why he thought it was okay not to be involved, but at the same time, for me, I would have insisted that I was in some way involved, even if, and I talked about this a little bit in my Save the Light Let's Play that's going on right now. Check it out every morning at 9:30 a.m. I really wish looking back, and I guess I've kind of always wished the whole time, that Greg would have gotten more involved in things, even if he just learned a lot about gems, so that he could help out from like an intellectual standpoint, you know? And I'll tell you, I'm a pretty laid-back guy most of the time, but if I had a kid who was half alien, half frickin' alien, and there were other aliens raising him and training him to be a better alien, and they were monster aliens trying to kill him and the people teaching him to be a better alien, I'd learn about those frickin' aliens and use that as a reason not only to keep involved in my son's life, but to help him out when I could. And Greg just doesn't frickin' do that, and I don't understand it. It's just so fundamentally opposed to the way that I firmly believe I would handle things in his situation, as ridiculous as that is. I'm not going to be in his situation, but you get the point, that it creates a dissonance between the fact that I like the character and I like the guy, and the fact that I don't feel like he ever did enough for his son. And maybe that's my own bad history with some of my parenting, some of the way my parents handled raising me shining through. But there you go. Looking back on Laser Light Cannon again more than Gem Glow, there's my updated thoughts on the series. As for questions that are left unanswered by this, there's all the cat stuff, cat-themed stuff in Greg's storage shed, though I'm pretty sure that picture of a cat with a ball of yarn is a painting of Amethyst. Because we know that there's a quadrillion paintings of Amethyst in various shapes, shaped forms floating around the town. And the cat looks kind of purplish, so I'm thinking that's just a painting of Amethyst. But that is technically a question that was never answered. Also, where did all that frickin' stuff come from? Trying to think. I mean, there's not really that much else. Like, there's little ones. Like, there's a cat carrier, I think, somewhere in the storage unit. People always thought he had a cat at some point, but it doesn't look like he ever did. So where did the cat carrier come from? Maybe he thought he was going to get a cat someday, so he bought one from a garage sale. Just like everything else in that storage shed, because there's literally nowhere else that it could have come from, right? So it's technically an unanswered question, but not really. More interestingly, though, Gem Glow, and this is probably just because, again, as I mentioned in my commentary on the episode, they hadn't really thought things completely through yet and ended up retconning some stuff out. But we never do get an explanation for why Nephrite, when it gets corrupted, gains effectively a Hollow Pearl ability. And why they seem so much more substantial and independent even than Hollow Pearls, and even had the ability to create acid in their bodies just like the big one did, even though the assumption would be that the acid comes from the gem, right? Because we know Rose's tears came from her gem, right? It's very interesting. It's stuff that I'm like 90% sure it's just because they hadn't completely thought out the mythos yet, but at the same time, even a cursory explanation for it would have been nice. And it is inconsistent with what we see of Centipedal later on. That said, as cringy as it was rewatching my old stuff, and it's going to get worse, because eventually we're going to reach a point where these reviews are even older than these two reviews were, because these were not the first two episodes I ever reviewed. So that's going to suck a lot. Really looking forward to that. This was still a lot of fun, though, and I hope you guys enjoyed this experience, because I enjoyed it a lot. That said, if you guys noticed any questions that were left unanswered by the rest of the show that pop up in these episodes that I didn't talk about, let me know, and let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, though, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.